Hello, I'm GR Fayez, and today we're going to be learning more about the Death card. So grab your deck and let's get to it. So here we have the Death card. So Death itself actually looks, to me, very similar to the Knights of the Minor Arcana when we get there. Riding on the horse and sort of holding the flag, if you will. The other thing to note is that we have, unfortunately, a couple of people who've passed. We have the king on the ground. This young girl does not appear to be doing too well. We have our bishop and another young child who are up. If we look in the distance, there seems to be this town with this halo, golden glow around it. Now, death, of course, just by name, has a little bit of a negative connotation for some people, especially when it comes up in readings. But to me, death is inevitable change. There are a few cards in the deck that indicate change, but to me, death is a change that will happen. Other changes might be more self-reflective in nature. And this is not to say that this one can't be self-reflective, but it speaks to me that the change will happen sort of regardless of the amount of reflection that we do. So death can represent the end of something, not necessarily the end of life, but the end of a chapter, the end of a phase. Maybe if you've been feeling sort of down, it's the end of that down energy and going to a more positive energy, because it's often followed by this idea of rebirth, which, is hinted at by this sort of golden village, if you will, in the background. The other thing that the death card can represent in a way is the inner death. When we change, when we maybe put up certain boundaries or decide we don't want to deal, with certain energy, people will enter or leave our lives depending on that as we set up these boundaries. So this isn't just an outward change. This can represent a change in personality to ourselves and in which sort of the world around us starts to change. Whether it be friendship, like I said, or new friendship coming in. This is what that can stand for. Now, I also forgot to actually point out this sort of feather. Death is, unfortunately, this inevitable thing, but it's not necessarily this idea of a horrible thing. There is sort of an innocence, right? Because we still do have the child up, but the king is down, unfortunately, I guess, or fortunately, depending how you view it, if you've had a wonderful long life, this is inevitability. Death, when we reverse it, might mean that the person doesn't like change. To me, this is an inevitable change card that will happen. So they might be digging their heels in extra deep, but the change in my mind, as the reader, is still likely to happen. It just might be a rougher transition than this person is hoping for. If this is indicating the end of a phase, the end of a moment, an era, if you will, this might indicate that the person might be down a little bit of nostalgia or difficulty letting it go. It could even, just be a little bit more of a depressed energy for the idea of losing this. And that will happen. The other thing is even though we change and, perhaps family members or friends sort of leave our lives while new people sort of enter as we're inviting new energy in, this can represent some of that loss, some of that nostalgia for change as well. So again, if the right side definition works best for you, stay with that. If you want to add the upside down interpretation, do so, but it is whatever you feel most comfortable with. We're going to actually take a look at a few other versions of death from various decks. Here we have our 3 death cards. One thing to note is that the Wizard's tarot deck actually calls this Transfiguration. I think I read in a review, if I'm correct, that did not change to Transfiguration. But Transfiguration also makes sense, as it is almost like a spiritual death and rebirth. And so again, though, we have these sort of death symbols around it, the skull, the sort of candles, and these white roses. We also have almost making it look like a winged cape, giving that sort of butterfly effect. Again, just reiterating how death is not necessarily an end-all be-all, but a transformation to a new state. And of course, the halo behind this gentleman's head representing a new phase of thinking, a new phase of enlightenment. Now, the Legend of Athorium one is, of course, a little bit more action-packed, as we have the chariots, I should say, the Pegasuses ushering the various people in over this sort of castle setting here. And so, again, almost this inevitability, this movement forward, this transformation emphasis, if you will. And while this one does look a little bit more hectic, it's still going to hold those same definitions. Because transformation can feel hectic regardless of how fast or slow it is coming, mostly because it's a phase we're not comfortable with. And so it just jars us a little bit more. Thank you for joining me and learning about the Death card. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. I am GR Fayez, and thank you for joining me. Take what works for you and leave the rest.